These are troubled times that we're living in.
US President Donald Trump has had one warning for Iran: do not attack American assets in the Middle East.
It's painful for both parties, but I'd say Iran is not winning this war. And they should talk, and they should talk immediately before it's too late.
Anyone with at least a passing interest in history will know that wars, social conflict, class conflict, religious conflict are not issues that the human race hasn't faced in the past. If modern humans have been around for 300,000 years, maybe it is worth looking back through history at how some of the great thinkers have thought about how society is set up. In hundreds of thousands of years on this planet, we must have some idea of how we should organize ourselves that in a way that would minimize conflict, allow us to get the most out of each other and for ourselves. Plato did think about societies. He did think about different types or structures of society and how we should all interact with each other. He started off with what is essentially an aristocracy, ruled by a philosopher king. In this society, there would be three classes: a ruling class or guardians, the auxiliaries, being the military, and effectively everyone else. The fundamental principle here would be that the guardians, the rulers, would always rule for the benefit of the many and not out of personal interest. That would be the ideal society. Plato went on to talk about imperfect societies. These four imperfect societies were timocracy, oligarchy, democracy, and tyranny. Immediately I know there will be some who will be wondering how a democracy can be considered an imperfect society, given that a lot of Western society is actually based around democracy as being the ideal. But we will come on to that. If the aristocracy is the ideal, led by a philosopher king, then the first imperfect society to emerge is the timocracy. The root cause is some kind of civil strife among the guardian class. There will be a tension between those who value private profit and ownership of land on the one hand, and the others who, as Plato puts it, concentrate on having true riches in their own hearts. There is an emergence now of a new elite class based on ownership of property and land ownership. And perhaps the parallel here, or the best example of it, is the feudal system in Europe. Plato considered this society not to be wholly evil or wholly good, but lying somewhere in between. After the timocracy, the evolution of imperfect societies then turns to an oligarchy. And that's a society in which wealth is the criterion of merit, and the wealthy are in control. Political power is in the hands of the rich, and the poor have no share of it. The accumulation of wealth in private hands is what destroys the timocracy. In this society, the further the people go in the process of accumulating wealth, the more they value it, and consequently, the less they value goodness. Plato viewed wealth and goodness as two objects on a balance, so that if one rises, the other necessarily must fall. The system now is designed around the wealthy using their resources to prevent others from being able to rise to power and benefit the society. This is done by controlling the legislative process, making it difficult for anybody who isn't wealthy to have any sort of influence in the society. The rich close ranks. The next imperfect society is democracy. What destroys the oligarchy is actually the lack of restraint in pursuing its primary objective, which is people getting as rich as possible. Here again, Plato is quick to give us the symbolism of the balance, essentially saying that the love of money on the one hand and having self-discipline on the other cannot coexist. in a society. For one to prevail, the other must be neglected. That scale, one will rise and the other will fall. A powerful quote here is that this neglect and the encouragement of extravagance in an oligarchy often reduces to poverty men born for better things. In the democracy, people are allowed to do what they want and give in to their desires. The difference here is that in a democracy, the people get to vote on the legislation. It is not controlled, in theory, by a particular class of society. And the key characteristics are those which are often bandied around in the news and in the media. There is liberty, freedom of speech. Every individual is free to do what they like. The irony is that it's this freedom, this political equality, that makes democracy as a society imperfect. In his words, no one who had not exceptional gifts could grow into a good man unless he were brought up from childhood in a good environment and trained in good habits. Democracy, with a grandiose gesture, sweeps all of this away and doesn't mind what the habits and background of its politicians are, provided they profess themselves the people's friends. They are duly honored. And therein lies the problem. Democracy will attract people who are seeking power. In previous societies that we looked at, there was some qualifying criteria to end up as a guardian, as a ruling class, whether that was virtue, property, or wealth. Something qualified you for it. The problem in the democracy is that access to power lies in the ability to manipulate the masses. Our final stop: tyranny. The imperfections of the democratic society lead to a tyrannical one. The desire and pursuit of excessive freedom creates a world that is anarchic. The people's desire to have no master ironically leads to an extreme and opposite outcome of having a master, a tyrant. In the midst of the chaos of the democracy, there is an increasing desire for order. A strong man emerges, and the people in their confusion rally around him. They support him and they protect him. Little do they know that he is consumed by his own desires. But now it's worse. Now he's in a position, he is supported, he's funded. He's able to satisfy, or at least try to satisfy, his most base desires. There will be murder. There will be theft. There will be the sort of strong man history has seen again and again. So over to you now. Look at the world around you. At what stage of this do you think that your society currently sits? Better still, are there other types of societies that maybe are more nuanced versions of the four imperfect societies that Plato described? Or if you have a different take, please feel free to leave a comment. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.